Please give warm welcome to Filip Balicki.
Thank you very much. So, Michał, the problem is that my boss is on the audience, so thank you for that very unnecessary introduction.
Filip, my boss was there yesterday too. So.
Yeah, and I heard some rumors. Okay. Anyway, once again, I will tell a little about Tetris. I hope that most of you heard Michał Rosołowski's lecture yesterday, because I will reference to that a couple of times, especially this metaphor about candy bars. So, as you already know, we don't have SAFe anymore in our company, or most of the projects, probably. It was canceled some time ago. It was quite rapid death. So, at least from our point of view. That's why every time when I think about SAFe, or I'm asked about SAFe, and need to say something about this framework, I have one particular scene in my head from my favorite movie. This is my favorite movie. And the scene is, okay, who saw that film? Okay, so once again, we canceled SAFe. I have one particular scene in my head, one particular sentence. Maybe can someone try to guess what sentence I have in my head? Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Z is dead, baby, Z is dead. The problem is, or the thing is, that in my head, Bruce Willis says, SAFe is dead, baby, SAFe is dead. And the thing is that he is still very happy, like in that scene. The question is why he and our colleagues are so happy, or were so happy, when we introduced that information that SAFe is dead, baby, SAFe is dead. Well, I will be honest with you. In my opinion, it wasn't so bad, in general. I didn't cry too loudly after SAFe, but also I didn't bought the best bottle of wine to celebrate that event. I think simply that SAFe didn't fit to our organization. Michał said a little more about that yesterday. So it was very difficult to identify proper value streams. It was extremely difficult to identify proper trains. And those things which were promised with SAFe didn't work for us, right? I mean, instead of linear dependencies or low dependencies, we had matrix of dependencies between trains. We are not able to deliver end-to-end with limited communication between value streams. It didn't work. So structure was too complex, projects were complex as well, and we didn't find all answers in SAFe. So after 2 years of SAFe, we were told that's enough. You need to do a step back to the roots, back to the Agile principles. Do it simple. Of course, so you remember from yesterday that we redefined value streams, and okay, here is your new value stream. Now we have end-to-end product. You can deliver it almost without dependencies, in theory. The problem is that structures in general didn't change. So the complex of the structure is still the same. So the question was how we can scale. And the answer was simple, it's up to you. Okay, now we have no new value streams, so it's up to you how you want to build those scale. And I think Michał mentioned about that yesterday as well, that all value streams did it in a different way. And we have got a couple of presentations here, and we try to introduce what was our answer. And I will tell about that as well. We received 2 guidance. Start less, finish more, that's simple one, and the zero defects policy, which was described as well, zero defects policy. And start less, finish more. Those ideas are not new. Both are from Kanban, right? I mean, the zero defects policy, so you can't deliver until you fix all defects, or you need to stop to develop and solve the defects you have or problems you have. This is stop the line concept from Kanban. Start less, finish more, you can read about that in a lot of books. So both of two brings us to limit unfinished work, that's all. And I had lucky to be in the team And our task was to create new way of working based just on those two assumptions and introduce it to our department. A couple of people, weeks of meetings, some travels, and so on. But before that, my first question was, do we really need to limit work in progress? I know we have a lot of books from Scrum, from Kanban, from others, but are there any scientific proofs that we need to limit work in progress because our minds work in that way? I wasn't so sure, so I wanted just to check it. So, and I will have some news or fun facts about our brain during this presentation. Every time you will see this graphic in left top corner, depends on left, which left, this one, I will have some fun fact about our brain. So once again, my question was, do we really need to limit work in progress? First studies I found were quite interesting. Simple answer is no. Thank you. Okay, so there are studies from 2008 and other studies even from a more recent one that if we interrupt someone with another task and this person needs to back to the original task, this original task will be done faster and with same quality. So we should interrupt people because it will help us. So other studies confirm that, but with some assumptions. First, it depends on task we will interrupt with. If this task is from the same context, then probably it can work. But also, they used some NASA tools they use to examine astronauts, and they figured out that this one, such interruptions have own costs, with more stress, with higher frustration, more effort needed or more energy needed, and with bigger time pressure. So when we think about the costs as general, the costs will be higher. However, from that particular task at that moment, we can see very short-term benefit, that the task will be done faster when we think about total effective time spent on that task. But there is also one star here about non-effective time spent on that task. And I will tell a little more about that. Okay, so can we do multitasks or not? Can we, how context switching is working? In other words, how many CPUs our brain has? Okay, how many tasks I can do in parallel? Okay, first one announcement. I'm not neuroscience PhD. I'm not neuroscience expert, and I hope there is no any expert in this room. But still, just in case, to avoid some very stupid mistakes, for next 4 slides I will use some of my notes, because you know this naming convention, quite difficult. Okay. Our brain is split into 2 parts, gray matter and white matter. For complex solving problems, we will focus on gray matter. Gray matter is set of our neurons. So you can think about gray matter as set of resources we have available. By the way, probably you've heard about some studies 10 years ago, or maybe even more, that we can use only a couple of % of our brain. That's not true. We can use almost all available resources in the time when we work on the complex tasks. The problem is, or the details are, that our brain creates subset of neurons. And our brain can create about 50 such subsets to solve the problems. But funny thing is that it doesn't mean that we can work on 50 tasks in parallel. Because, like in a company, our brain needs a manager. Sorry for that, but that's true. So we have this anterior prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for complex problem solving, kind of the management. Okay? So this part of our brain define a goal, define rules we need to follow, and pass this goal and our intention to another part of our brain called medial frontal cortex. And this MFC tracks our motivation if we are still on track and drive the results. For example, build those subset of neurons to keep the communication and solve the problem. Now, what will happen with our complex tasks? If we have one complex task, our APC will encode the goal, pass it to the MFC, and we have left and right MFC. And MFC will drive the results by building a subset of neurons. If we have one complex task, both left and right MFC will work together and will assign almost all available resources. So we will work with all available resources to solve the problem. Now, we add another complex task in the same time. No problem for APC. APC will decode this goal, will manage it, will assign rules, perfect, and we'll pass it to the MFC. We have left and right MFC. That's great. The left MFC will drive results for one goal. Another MFC will drive results for second goal. The star here is that now we have only half of resources available for each task, because each MFC will drive the results independently. Two goals, left and right MFC, resources split it into half. Still, it's working. But now we assign third complex task to solve. Once again, APC, not a problem. We can assign the goal, assign the rules, pass it to MFC. Whoop, stop. We have right and left MFC. No MFC is available, so we need to do context switching. Based on studies, if we assign three very complex tasks at the same time, number of errors will rise dramatically. Time of doing this task will rise dramatically. So, now will be a tricky one. And I don't have a slide about it. 2 years ago, there were studies on MIT, and they discovered that another part of the brain, we know about this part of the brain, called thalamus, but we thought that it is not involved in context switching. Well, it is. Now, we have this thalamus, and as I said, when we do the complex task, we have a set of rules in our APC. What is set of rules? Everything which is needed to solve the problem. If you debug the issue, your rules will be how your product is working, how to use the script, this language, how to debug the code, everything what you know from your experience which is needed to solve the problem. In other words, you have context in your APC. Okay? Now we have new task, and for example, no available MFC to do this. We need to do context switching. Thalamus will take those rules, let's say, load new rules, but our thalamus will be able to keep original rules for some period of time. That's an interesting thing. So those rules will be not overwritten. It means that we can back to the original task without building new rules from the scratch. Thing is that this thalamus will keep those rules, those rules which should be prevented from overwritten, in our short-term memory. And our short-term memory is designed for something else. Our short-term memory is designed to keep a small portion of information for 18 seconds, up to 18 seconds. For example, when you want to take the number and put it into Excel, for example, from your phone, you just remember this number for 18 seconds, and that's all. And now thalamus will use this part of our brain to keep these rules. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that context switching is for free. No. The problem is that our brain, fun fact number 2, use energy, needs fuel. Fuel for our brain is oxygenated glucose. This oxygenated glucose, by design, is used to build connections between our neurons. Thalamus will use the same energy. Thalamus will use the same fuel. Every time when we do the context switching, every time when we take out our rules and bring new rules, and then revert back original rules, we use fuel. So our brain to try to solve problems quicker because there is a lower fuel. So that's the reason why in short time you can do tasks faster. However, this fuel will finish earlier. So either you will be very, very tired earlier, or you will be not able to use your full capacity of your brain because you will be not able, or your brain will be not able to build connections between neurons because of lack of fuel. So you need to take more breaks. You need to take time to deliver this oxygenated glucose. Okay. Let's try an example and some interesting numbers. So we have developer here. She's working on something very important, very complex. So of course, she has some rules in her APC how to solve this problem. She also uses her short-term memory to solve that problem. So up to 4 to 5 messages in short-term memory just to solve exact problem in 80 seconds or a small part of this problem, then another. So her short-term memory is occupied all the time. Based on studies, every 2 to 3 minutes in IT companies, big companies, I don't remember the number, it was up to 300, maybe 400 people, she will be interrupted with something small in every 2 to 3 minutes. What does it mean, something small? It means that there will be no context switching. That's fine. However, her short-term memory will be impacted. For example, can you send me this email? Are you going to lunch? Do you remember the number of something, something, something? Yes, 5. Thank you. Short-term memory. 5. Thank you. Bring things again to short-term memory. So she will use extra fuel to answer those questions. Now, every 10 to 11 minutes in average, based on studies, she will be interrupted with something big. Something big means we need to do context switching. Remove rules from APC, bring new rules, eventually revert original rules. And Ari mentioned about that, I don't know if you got it yesterday, that after she will be interrupted, it will take in average 23 minutes to back to the original task and refocus to full speed. Do you see that? I'm working 10 minutes, I'm interrupted, it will cost me 23 minutes, then I'm working for another 10 minutes and will be interrupted with 23 minutes once again. Refocus, it doesn't mean just refocus in those 23 minutes. It's, I will check Facebook, I will go to grab the coffee and so on and so on and so on. In average, everything will take up to 23 minutes before I back my original task and refocus to do the work with full speed. So my answer for original question was, okay, now I understand that the context switching is costly. Another studies which shows that if you treat one task, monotask, as something which takes 100% of our time, if you split into 2 tasks and focus on 2 tasks, you will pay 20% of your time. 40% with 3 tasks, 60% with 4 tasks, up to 80% with 5 tasks. So it means that you will lose up to 80% of your time on something different than problem solving. On refocusing, on discussions, on everything else related with context switching. Fun fact? Yes, I like this one. But about 2.5% of our population will not suffer from multitasking. No costs at all. 2.5% of our population. Thing is that we still don't know why. It was, examined, it was checked, but we don't have any scientific explanation why, how those brains work. The question to you is, do you feel lucky? And we can check it. I don't have complex tasks for you, but I have simple tasks for you, but I hope it will force context switching. So those of you who has those notepads and pencils and so on, please take it. It will take a couple of minutes. For those who hasn't, you can borrow paper and pencil, or just wait up to 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes before we finish this exercise. Once again, the goal of this exercise is to check if you have lucky and you are in this 2.5% of population, and you can do multitasking because your brain is awkward. Okay. This exercise is sponsored by Michał Kołtowski because we will have 30 seconds exactly. Thank you for that. So, your task, as I said, probably you are able to do 2 tasks in the same time. So that's why I have 3 tasks for you. I will ask you to write down alphabet, Arabic numbers, and Roman numbers, not all alphabet, just from A to O, so 1 to 15, 1 to 15. Before you start, please wait for it. It will be 30 seconds. Once you finish, before the time, please raise your hand. If don't, just keep it on this paper. The exercise is that I will ask you to do this in rows. So A1, 1, B2, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, and O, 15, 15. So 30 seconds, time start. And you're done. Stop. I saw it, Eva. I can accept it. Okay. Now, the same task, once again, 30 seconds, but this time from A to O, then Arabic numbers from 1 to 15, and then Roman numbers from 1 to 15. Time, start. Of course, once you finish, please raise your hand. Okay, and time, stop. Thank you very much. You can, of course, check now the first one when you did complex, not complex, but context switching, if you have any mistakes. However, I have bad information for you. Probably nobody is so lucky to be in those 2.5%, because I know that you finished earlier, Eva. You have a chance. You can check if you have. Sorry for that. Okay, of course, as I said, it wasn't complex, but during first exercise, you did context switching, right? Even if you had how the alphabet looks like, how the Arabic numbers looks like, and this knowledge was quite easy, and you keep it in, for example, in short-term memory for that particular. Probably with Roman numbers, you know, 5, 10, 9, 9, it was okay, Y and X, I can go. So context switching. So, okay, I've got my answer, okay? Context switching costs us a lot. So still limiting work in progress, that's fine. And we should do this. But question, if this is so obvious, if we can read it in so many books, why we don't do this? Because the answer is simple, that in general, to do this, you should, you know, have friendly working environment, so not too many interruptions. And you should limit your work in progress as an individual and as a team. So you have, you know, backlog you can manage and work on only single tasks. Why we don't do this? I think I have 2 answers. In theory, when we think about the backlog, and at least, you know, 4 different stakeholders who brings us tasks A, B, C, and D. And this is a situation probably we know from our companies. And this is the situation in theory which looks very good, right? I work on A, then B, and C, and D. Even now you can see that, you know, this backlog here is shorter because of the, you know, cost of context switching. But still, I can bet some money that probably you have this one in your company. And the question is why? First of all, I don't know if you ever did a matrix analysis of your stakeholders. How many stakeholders you have and how much they are important for you. So what kind of task they bring and so on. I did it once. At least I finished at counting them. And I stopped after 28. 28 people every day can ask how my progress looks like, can bring me new task, or ask for report or anything. 28. On this example, I will use only 4 to keep it simple. So my answer is that in corporate world, we want to keep our stakeholders happy. Period. And what does it mean? It means that at the very beginning, when we look into that, I have task for you. No problem. I will take it for my next sprint. I will analyze this backlog. I will analyze this defect. I will fix it. I will start developing. So your task will be in my backlog. Wow, perfect. You are great. In theory, in the second example, only A will be happy, right? We have here sprints. Let's say that those are sprints, and 3 of them is kind of the PI, for example, increment. So in theory, at the very beginning, A, B, C are happy because we just start their work. And in second scenario, only A is happy because we finished his work in first PI, but B, C, D are not happy because I said, you need to wait for another PI, for another 3 sprints, for another 3 months, for another 3 whatever, right? Here I keep my stakeholders happy. They bring me topic, I will take it to the backlog. But when we start analyzing it, we will see such situation that we know what is unloaded effort, right? So to solve the A, in theory, you need 3 sprints, but after 6 sprints, A is still in progress. B is still in progress. And oh my God, D just started and C just stopped. After 3 sprints, you stopped my work. What's going on? Okay, you know that this is the cost of our process. There are delays, but come on, still your task is on our board, so that's okay. So they are not so happy, and at the end, they can say, finally, you finished it after 12 sprints. It should take 3 sprints, but whatever, I have my solution. Bad, but stable. There's another sentence in Polish, but I will not quote it, so I will keep only bad, but stable. Okay? With second scenario, when you think at the very beginning, when you have those 28 person, and they have tasks for me, and I can do or keep happy only one of them at the very beginning, I don't like this idea. But when you think about this slightly longer, after another iteration, now B is quite happy. Why? Because we still started later, but finished earlier. After another one, now C is happy. After another one, D is now happy. Doing that, by some period of time, we will be transparent, and the most important information, I hope we can change the culture, and instead of asking when you can start and take it to the backlog, the question will be when you can finish, okay? And another very important thing, once I will take your task, it means that, it will be my main focus. If I do your initiative, if I do your epic feature, whatever, you know that I will use all my available resources to solve this problem because this is my procedure, this is my way of working. Start less, finish more. Okay? So after some time, they should be happy because we are predictable. And that's the thing behind our idea of new way of working and idea behind those limit work in progress. It will be difficult at the beginning because you will have 27 angry stakeholders and only 1 happy for some time. That's the problem. But there is also another problem, more tricky one. Do you know what is it? Dopamine. This is hormone of happiness in our brain. The problem is how we deliver dopamine to our brain when we solve the problem. And what is the easiest way to solve the problem? Take something small. Can you give me this number? 5. Thank you. Dopamine. I solved her or his problem. Can you forward me this email? No problem. Thank you. Dopamine. Yes, it works that way. And the problem is that every time we are distracted and we solve this problem, our brain will get dopamine. So brain will seek to reproduce this path because it is easy way to receive dopamine. So now, even if we know about interruptions, everything, our brain will seek to interruptions. What does it mean? There were another studies which shows that when we removed all dependencies and all interruptions from the external world, each developer start interrupting themselves, or himself, sorry. Okay, I need to check email now, probably something important. Oh, something on Hangout? No, not this time, okay. Every 2 to 3 minutes, still the same path. It means that this is not something natural for us to work without interruptions. So it means if you want to be interrupted, you need to turn off Gmail and Hangout for example, 3 hours, because now I'm working on something else. If you have only information that something interesting is there, there is a big chance that you will switch to this topic just to receive dopamine. Okay. So now I hope you will pay attention on that context switching and limiting work in progress, and this is something you need to think about constantly. Another problem with SAFe, another problem which we try to discuss and exercise and define before we even start thinking about our new way of working. Some disadvantages from SAFe. I must disagree with Michał Rosołowski from yesterday. He mentioned, maybe not disagree, it's too strong. He mentioned that in SAFe there is information deliver value is more important than resource utilization. That's true, but only on declarative level. The problem is that SAFe delivered tools to do resource utilization and deliver no tools to limit work in progress. So 4.0, we used that fancy rule to calculate capacity. It was number of headcounts available, multiplied by work days, multiplied by magical 80%. In literature, they have name for it, sweet point. Great name, sweet point, 80%. Now I checked. I don't know for those 6, but I checked. They have now more fancy one. 1 point is half a day task or 1 day off. Okay, more or less. Now with 2 week sprint, the sprint capacity is 8 points. So yeah, we have sweet point, it's magical 80%, great. And the requirement, plan all your capacity for next PI. Whoa. Okay, first of all, why I don't like it? 80% from SAFe and from many articles, it's bullshit. Studies show that in fact, developer spend up to 40% on development. Another 60% is something else. In general, waste, based on that studies, but I'm not sure if it was always waste. You have all meetings here and of course breaks and so on. Cost of context switching as well, 40%. So problem is that at the very beginning we have wrong number here. The second thing, it is used to calculate resource utilization. Magical scheduled time divided by resource capacity is your scheduled utilization, and then you track it by requested time divided by resource capacity. The problem is that to do this, you need to know the scheduled time. So what we do? Estimate. The problem with estimates are that it is quite difficult to estimate, especially when you try to estimate future. And the second one is this Hofstadter law. Even if you know that your estimates are too optimistic and you try to take into consideration this fact, once again, your brain will work that way, that you will give even more optimistic number, which will be multiplied by magical 8.1 for example, still give you too optimistic results. So we have wrong capacity, we have wrong estimations, and now we try to manage the project based on that numbers. Okay. But still, this is a very popular thing. Just check that it is in quotation, right? So it means that I was looking just for exact articles and tools with resource utilization in IT. 44,000. Big number. Why is that? Because of another reason from our corporate world. Something I called captain on the bridge effect. In my opinion, most of your management, especially high management and so, doesn't sit with you and work together with you. They have only snapshot. Michał mentioned about that yesterday, that what we like to see is this situation when you have those runners and those without stick run in a place or something, so they are occupied. So they have snapshots from the reports or from situation when they enter to the room. It's not about you, Michał. Come. They enter the room and see the situation. And most often, how they interpret the situation will be this one, right? One worker and another, well, cheerleaders? I have no idea. Okay, known picture from our country. I don't know how it looks like in Malaysia, for example. But in general, common picture. But in fact, what we want to achieve is this one. So some developers are working directly on the problem. But it's very dark one, but here we have another guys in helmets and some, managers of the truck. They do nothing, even those two don't stand that way, but they are fully focused on the same goal. Those are ready to replace them. Those just track if we have all metrics and so on, everything is fine, right? Wheels are in place and so on. So not whole team is engaged directly to developing, but whole team is engaged to achieve the goal. And in fact, our role is to explain and show that this is not the picture, this is the picture. So instead of the resource utilization, because what does it mean resource utilization in that particular example? Let's say PI planning. Okay, this is our goal. Now we have some hands free, and we want all hands busy. So we take another task to the backlog, another task to the backlog. We have such backlog. Now, you are working on main goal. You are working on main goal, and the work can't be done in parallel for more than 2 persons. So third person, fourth person, fifth person of the Scrum team will take another task from another topic, another context, and they will start work. Now, first one is ill, so we need to replace someone, context switching. But this is one thing. We have multiple reviews from different contexts. Even we have different roadblocks from different contexts. It means that during the stand-up, you have 3, 4 different topics you need to discuss, and you need to do context switching, and maybe help someone other, and so on. Even if you have one goal, like in PI, still you try to keep all hands busy, and it will not if anything else occurs. Context switching, once again. So, what about the scope utilization? So instead of focusing on keep all hands busy, we want to focus on delivery. We want to start less and finish more, and finish what we started. So I don't utilize resources. I'm focusing on delivering one thing. Of course, there is risk here, right? If we fail with this one, we fail at all. When we have PI and we have, I don't know, 3, 4 different topics, we failed with one, maybe we have some success, it will be 40% of business value delivered. Okay, it's better than 0, right? But still, with those, maybe risk is slightly bigger, but still we are focused on one delivery. Limit work in progress. So from that angle, I also was convinced after that it makes sense. Now we can start discussion about our way of working. So we know that we want to limit our work in progress. We know how our brains work. So let's discuss about the scope. When you think about any initiative, epic feature, whatever piece of work which brings value. So designed, developed, tested, delivered, this is a piece of work. When you think about it, at the very beginning it's blob, right? More or less you know scope. But when you start discussing, you think about dependencies, timelines, teams which should be involved. When we draw it on the piece of paper, we immediately saw that it looks like a Tetris, a ritual, right? This brick is a slightly more fancy one, but still it looks like a Tetris. So let's think about our backlog as a Tetris. So each brick, the gray, the orange, and so on, this piece of work when you need to do work from the beginning to the very end with tests and so on. You have some capacity, of course. So in columns, you can think about teams. In rows, you can think about sprints, months, whatever, timeline. Of course, this is the actual state. This is the future, right? And of course, when you play Tetris, you want to have all row full. To do this with resource utilization, here's the theory. We get rid of glue, and it works perfectly, right? So now we have this orange. So two teams can work on orange, then another, after one sprint, month, week, whatever, another team will work on that, and then another team will work on that. Perfect situation. Resource utilization 100% used. Great. But in practice, it looks slightly different. Can you help us with integration? Can you explain what you did? Because we changed the scope a little. So additional effort is needed. It means that this additional effort will split your current work. So you need to do context switching. So you will pay more. Or even because of such situation, your current work can be stopped. And once you back to this one, the scope can be different. So you need to throw away what you did and start working once again. And now it brings us to our idea. Play Tetris. Just play Tetris. Empty spots are okay. It is not something wrong that your team has some free capacity. What we can do with that? First of all, start less, finish more. So instead of starting new work, maybe I can help other team to finish their topic. Or even the same topic I had, but now I have free capacity so we can work together. So in Tetris, it is bricks rotation, right? You rotated. Here was one team for three sprints, and here are 3 teams for one sprint. I know this is theory, and this is very difficult. Sometimes it's possible, especially when someone is looking for helping with, let's say, manual tests. This is not rocket science. We can learn it. Someone can guide us. So I can jump into their topic for 1 sprint, 2 sprints, and help them, okay? But of course, it will be not possible all the time. So of course, I can try to fit, if I have very small initiatives, just for 2 sprints, and I have 2 sprints empty, I can bring initiative even with lower priority, and in case I'm able to finish it from end to end, right? But most often, I won't be able to do this. I end with empty spots. And guess what? I will not ask managers to assign me the task. We assume that our teams knows the best how they can invest that time. And we know, we track it, we ask for that, but we don't estimate now that, okay, you have 3 headcounts and 2 of them are working on something, half another work. So you have half resource and you can use it in that way. No. You said me that you are working on one particular topic, you have some free capacity, use it in the best way you know. And guess what? It works with some difficulties, but still, it can work. So our teams knows the best how to invest their free time into improvements or non-business initiatives. But there are some assumptions with that as well. Okay, so to summarize, start less, finish more, because our bricks are glued, right? We can't split them. So once we started something, we need to finish. This work can be canceled. For example, it's not needed any longer. But if we started, we need to finish. If you have problem with that because you freeze this team for half a year, probably this initiative is too big. So maybe you can, if risk is that I can wait 3 months, try to plan in 3 months. Or try to plan work for 3 months, not for half a year. And finish what we started, okay, those, I mentioned about that. And the last one, real self-organizing team. Product owner can make decision to, assign some smaller tasks we need to do. If something is big, of course, it should have, own initiative and so on. And another thing, I need to confess, I always wanted to have own manifesto. So we did one. Okay. So of course we have a goal, but we have kind of, approaches we want to take, or took in our new way of working. Continuous planning. So we don't have PIs. The only certain thing is that if I have opened initiative, this initiative should be finished. We can pause it, right? It means that everything which is behind that, I can renegotiate. I can replan. So we have instant meetings to discuss about shape of the initiative. What does it mean? Shape, it means which teams are involved, how much time we need to do this in duration, what are the dependencies, what will be the order, and so on. So we can play with shape to fit it into our scheduler. And once again, the center thing for scheduler is one row, right? We try to plan another row as well. So two rows for us, two sprints, 4 weeks. And everything here is a prediction. So every week or every 2 weeks, we can play with it. We can try, let's rotate it, okay? Can you help? No, I don't know this. I don't have skill set, okay? So we don't rotate. Can we change the order? Yes, we can. Okay, so this is our shape. Continuous planning. Team over project. This is something I didn't mention, but this is quite important. We can transfer work, but not people. We believe that one of the biggest assets in our company are the teams, right? Constant teams. So we can transfer work, not people between the teams. Limit work in progress on each level, okay? So it means that team should take care and limit their work in progress, that's okay. But also our business needs to limit our work. So they have Kanban board with limitations. So it means that business will not start any analysis if they don't have capacity in the Kanban. Why it is so important? In previous world, once you see the initiative, once you saw the initiative, you saw it already accepted by the business. We want to do this. Here, this description. Please be ready to do this. Now, with one backlog, combined with business backlog, we have also proposals. So it has no priority yet. It is a blob, right? They start describing the blob, and we can see that, okay, they think that they can earn such amount of money because it will take between 1 and 3 months. But I know I will be participating in that, and my estimation is up to 5 months. So now I can react much, much earlier. So we can see when such initiative from the blob is shaped on the business level first, we can give input if necessary, and we see how this initiative grow in the backlog, right? Rise in the backlog. Higher priority, higher priority. I see that based on shapes we have, probably in next 3 or 4 months, team will be available. I need to finish in 1 year. I can wait. Or maybe, no, we need to start in next 5, 4, 3 sprints, not 2, because 2 are already started. So then we can start discussions. And we have special board for that. We have representative from engineers, from business. It is called front-end team. And they take care about prioritization. And there is one backlog for business, for developers. And guess what? If we have big initiatives for improvements, they are there as well. And we need to describe it in the same way as we describe the business one. So this is the only way when we can shape this initiative like a brick and start discussion about schedule. Decrease cycle time. This is the goal, right? We believe that those 2 backlogs I'll show with those funny pictures made by Marcin Gazda, we believe that it will impact our cycle time. And for sure it does. Still we are at the beginning of the road. Still we will need lessons learned and so on. But once again, collaborate on each level. Lessons learned are on each level. Business level, developers level, together, everything. And also we have those, boards, discussion, and so on. It means that this way of working is costly as well. It doesn't mean that it is for free, because our structure is complex. So we have a lot of meetings, and we have even new roles and new responsibilities. Because this scheduler I mentioned, when we keep the simulations of possible backlogs, is huge. it's quite, of course, even with limits on the columns, that we have up to 100 different topics there, and we try to play with those shapes. It means that we need special people to do this. We have these people in the room here, so after this discussion, after this lecture, if you have any questions, Kuba can answer. How to play, how it looks like from technical point of view to play without planning. Without PI plannings, 3 months planning, half a planning, just with simulations, how our schedule can look like. And the focus on high priority, that's of course obvious. One priority in the backlog. So it means from development perspective, this is the last thing I want to touch. Probably you know this discussion that I have technical debt I would like to remove. Can you give me please priority? 2023, no problem. Well, so we have two different possibilities. One, our product owner will push, find the product manager who knows this topic and give me this priority. Or second one, I will split it to smaller parts and I will wait for those empty spots because there will be empty spots. It's not possible to not have those empty spots. And then we will plan such work as well. And okay, maybe one more thing. I mentioned about responsibility of the team, right? They should be, self-organizing, and this team over project approach as well. In ideal world, we should work only on one initiative in the time, right? But most often topics are so complex and that it can be done in parallel, so on less than half of the team will be involved. Of course, we can invest that. That's great. But sometimes it makes sense to do at least 2 things in parallel. So what we did, we asked our teams, how do you think, how many different topics can you develop in parallel? And this is your capacity. 1 is recommended. Most of the team takes 2. So it means that they can do work in parallel and still they can manage dependencies, they can manage this context switching and so on. Sometimes, if the topic is very difficult, they will say, this time, for this initiative, for next 6 sprints, I will have only this one initiative. And we will not count velocity. We will not count how many headcounts, perfect word, works on that. Okay? Once initiative, okay, and we believe that you will invest the rest of your time, if you have any, of course, in a best possible way. We work that way for 1 year from now, for now. We see a lot of challenges. As I mentioned, we have lessons learned. Another lesson learned will be discussed our business next week. Another changes will be done. But those changes can be implemented very quickly. This is why we don't say process. We say way of working because we change things very quickly if we see that something is not working. It's not perfect. Sometimes it looks like a nexus. I learned it yesterday. We have, some topics are very similar one. The only problem is that we don't have one product. We have a couple of products which, are built into a huge system. So up to 250 people, something like that, okay? Using that way of working, and we see benefits of that. Thank you very much. We have.
Thank you. So one question.
4 minutes before lunch, so it can be difficult. Yeah, I understand that.
Any questions, guys?
It was quite obvious.
No questions?
Thank you very much.
Filip, come on, we have a little thank you gift for you.
Oh, so surprising.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
And
now you can bring me mine.
There's one question.
Okay.
Hey. Will you go?
Oh, it will be a tricky one now. I just thought about it.
a question from Eva.
Thank you. Regarding the slide with ABC tasks and people happy and unhappy, yeah?
Okay.
And yeah, we were talking with Tom
Yeah.
that in the next slide, when you have happy people, yeah, and the T person is the last one. So we need a proper culture in organization to have the last person happy, to be last, but to be addressed quicker.
Yeah, and this thing that, okay, I will start in 9 sprints, but you can be sure that I will focus on that work and not do another 5 or 6 other topics. So once I started, your topic will be the most important for me, and then we can, discuss about the duration and so on, because it's easier to discuss about.
And the question is, do you have any practices, experiences, how to communicate to the stakeholders, manager, about the teams, that it is the way to be happy, the person, to wait for your turn?
So first of all, we bring all, let's say, flavors in one room, right? From the very beginning. So there are a couple of things. One, I mentioned this front-end team. In front-end team, we have representative or chief of PDMs as well. We have our engineers managers who are also people managers for whole department. And also we have smart guys from architecture. So they need to agree on those shapes in the future, right? So at the beginning it is difficult because we have those delays, but as I mentioned, in the time those delays will be lower and lower, and because this discussion is also on the business level and we have this business input, we can discuss that, okay, how much money we'll earn on this one and this one. You can balance it and take more beneficial. So in answering your question, and to be honest, we pushed it a little to higher management to have this discussion, but in a transparent way. So this is one thing. And second thing is that I mentioned that we don't start shape the initiative too early. So we have this Kanban board, we have those limits. So we have, as far as I remember, limit is 10. So we can discuss about 10 different features. We can start in short term, and we start this discussion from the very basic, and we can, because we have only 10, we can ask all our product managers to join, architects, and all developers. So we have those discovery sessions from session by example, or specification by example, or behavior-driven development. We try to do this discovery sessions, so we can discuss at the very, very beginning, and we can discuss about the scope. And business can bring this view of business needs as well. And guess what? Even with the simplest one, very often we change the scope. That's interesting one, but even at the very beginning when we thought that this is very, very simple, we know how to do this, after such discovery sessions, we change the scope, we change the timeline, and so on. So short answer for this question is that we bring them to discussion at the very beginning. Them means business. I need to. Our partners on business side, not them. Bring us, it's some
Thank you, Filip.
schizophrenia. Thank you.